Hey guys, what is going on? In this video, we are going to be having a talk about e-commerce, right? And we're going to be talking about e-commerce, and this is for those of you who have thought about starting an online shop, an online business, but just want to know how to get started and what's involved, right? At a very high level, and what are the things that you should watch out for when you start creating an e-commerce store, right? Now, I've broken this video down into 3 simple steps, right? Because I don't want to overwhelm you and I want to stay on point with this particular video. So the first thing I'm going to do is just jump in, and with e-commerce, because it's quite complex in that if you've got 1,000 products to sell, 2,000 products, the platform that you've got, you can imagine you're talking 1,000, 2,000 pages just there, right? Now, even if you've only got, say, anywhere like 10, 15, 20, 30, 100 products even, something as simple as that, then that still is a fairly complex platform, right? It's more complicated than a website, is my point. So what I mean is, for the first point, what you have to understand is you have to understand what your tools are, right? And there's a number of tools that you can use when it comes to e-commerce, right? Now, I'm just going to say the number one online platform that I've come across and I've used, right? And I've used loads over the past 10, 15 years. I've used many different kind of shopping things. I've used things like OpenCart, Magento, WooCommerce, that's based on WordPress, and all these, right? But for someone who's just looking to get started and start with a simple process that they can start on, and then just have everything under the hood and where it's easy and simple to understand, right? Because these sites can get really complex, right? And if something happens as well, it's very difficult to identify the issues with them, like technical issues and errors. With platforms like Magento and stuff, it can get really messy. But for you to get started, right, there's tools, right? So there's already existing platforms, for example, that you can use. You can use Etsy, you can use Amazon, you can use eBay, you can use all these types of platforms, and there's literally tens and hundreds of these platforms, literally loads of them, right? So, but what is the number one platform that I would recommend for somebody who is thinking about getting started out, wants to maybe start on building a online store while they're still working through in their head, what they're going to create, what it's going to look like, and all this sort of stuff. But if you just want to get started, I want to go to a website today where you can just get started with things, right, and just get the ball rolling. The number one tool that I recommend is Shopify. Shopify.com. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, Shopify.com is a tool that I honestly recommend for people who are wanting to create an online business when it comes to e-commerce, right? Because it's so easy to use. All your analytics are in one place. The technical issues and errors or whatever are very, very minimal, because this piece of software, the Shopify team, they really are good at keeping on top of these issues. And if you do experience any problems, then the support is second to none. So, and uploading products and everything on there is the place to be, right? So I would say Shopify.com. Like a lot of people that I've worked with and that I know, they literally, their business model when it comes to online businesses and their side hustle or whatever is just Shopify stores. They'll create one Shopify store, they'll do all their, they'll find out who the target audience is, they'll find out services and products that sell. And what they end up doing is, all they do literally is work through and figure out what products sell and where to source them from and where to buy them from. Because the beautiful thing about Shopify is it makes drop shipping a very simple process. Now, drop shipping is a process where you sell a product on your store, but the fulfillment of it, like the posting of it and the return side of it, is not dealt by you. It's dealt by a third party, right? and by the dropshipping company, but you get paid the majority of that sale. Now, there's loads of tools that you can plug into Shopify around analytics, sourcing products and services and all that sort of stuff. But Shopify is honestly the number one tool I would recommend above the other ones that I mentioned, like Magento, OpenCart, WooCommerce, and these ones are good in their own right as well. But when you're first starting out and you want a clear pricing plan, then Shopify.com is ideal for people who are wanting to start out right from the bottom. And that is the first thing that I would say. So it's your tooling, right, that you need to get sorted out. Then the second thing is obviously it's the products. Like, what are you going to be selling on your store, right? So the first thing is understanding, like, what is your store all about? And then the second thing is, products that relate to what you do. Because I would say when you're starting out with a e-commerce store for the first time, right, you've got to be aware that you're going to be starting out your brand and getting your name out there, right? Which you can do fairly quickly, but the way that you do it quickly in this day and age is you've got to be consistent, concise, and you just got to be on it, right? And the way that you do that is by having a very clear message about what it is your store is all about, right? So it has to be clear what your brand is all about, and so you get recognized for that. And your products are all to do with what you sell. So if it's car parts, or if it's gardening tools or whatever, then you obviously make your store around that idea or concept. But it's important to know, because when it comes to products, you have to, once you know what it is that your store is all about and what you're going to be selling, then it becomes easier to source top selling products as well. So then it makes it easier for you to make money when it comes to setting your store up and everything, right? So there's a lot to take in, right? And I know it sounds simple, like you've got your tools and then you've got your products, but it really is. These things are, if you're new to e-commerce, then it's so important that you understand that these things really do matter. And your products, these are going to come from, you have to know, rather than also more than just what products you're selling, you have to know where you're getting them from. Are you going to be drop shipping them? Are you going to be buying them sort of like large wholesale, and then are you going to be selling, reselling them from your store? So if that's the case, then you might need somewhere to store it. Then you're going to need somewhere to manage returns as well, right? So I would highly recommend that when it comes to products, and like for a systematic way, through Shopify, I would really recommend you using drop shipping to start off with, right? Now, the one thing that I would say from my experience with drop shipping is when you start to do your digital marketing for your e-commerce store, then, once you've got your product and your tools sorted, so obviously you've got your Shopify store, you've put some time into your look and feel, you've got some products on there. But the key thing a pro tip when it comes to starting out with Shopify is if you're going to be selling worldwide, then you want to be selling a product that's not going to take like 2 months to arrive, or even a month. If you can find a product that you can sell worldwide that arrives worldwide within about a week, then that's really good. But if you're only selling like a handful of products, then it might be worthwhile maybe you fulfilling the delivery of these products as well, right? Because the worst thing that can happen when you have an e-commerce store, as sexy and appealing as it is to own an e-commerce store, the worst thing is when people start they buy into your brand, they buy into your store, they hand over their hard-earned money, and then it takes months for a product to arrive. It just takes any hard work that you've done through your branding, through your social media engagement, through your marketing. It takes all that away, and you lose any integrity, any respect that you've built with your target audience, right? And then it's very difficult to recover when you've got an online store that's got that many negative reviews, right? So you want to be sure that whatever you're selling, for your first store, I would go with a product that you can either self-store and send out, and they're not big products. If you can do that, that's good. If not, that's fine as well. But as a first sort of, if you're willing to get into e-commerce, or you're sold on e-commerce, but you want to make sure you go about it in the right way, that is one pro tip to remember, right? Because there's nothing worse than a product or a service taking so long to arrive, right? So moving on from obviously tools, products, and then the next thing is, it's all about, honestly, the next thing that I would say is all about brand awareness. And this is all about making sure that people know your brand, right? So they know your store. So have when it comes to your Shopify store, you want to make sure that you have got a name that is really, really strong, or a brandable name. And what we're going to be doing with brand awareness, that is literally all about, when it comes to your marketing, Facebook ads, Google, or however you're driving traffic to your e-commerce store, that you want to make sure that your brand is simple, and when you're doing your digital marketing, that people understand that they know who your brand is, because your branding is solid through consistency, through conciseness of what you do, right? So your messages are on point, it's clear, people know exactly what you do, they know your offers, they know your everything about it is all covered in brand awareness, right? So that literally comes down to, your social media marketing on a regular basis, social media posts, and just that outreach, but that is brand awareness. So that's all for this video, guys, and I hope that it's giving you a bit of an eye-opener into starting an e-commerce store.